Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I am here today with Ezra Barter, Evan Liu, Jackie K, and, well, not this time, Mr. Brennan Vogt, but we love you anyway, my friend. Till next time, thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. This is the Mile High Hockey Lab. Please give us a follow at all caps MHH_lab and at Mile High Hockey. And please head on over to the website and check out all of our written material. We have quite a show for you today. This is our 99th, yeah, that's right, 99th edition of the Mile High Hockey Lab, which means the next episode will be the 100th episode of this wonderful broadcast, and we will be celebrating when that time comes. As you see, I've got the confetti ready for episode 100.
Ooh, fancy.
I know, right? Let's roll on this episode 99, though. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to recap and react to the game last night, the game against the St. Louis Blues, as well as the LA Kings. We'll do a quick preview of the Beats, Bears, and Battlestar Galactica, Blackhawks, Blues, and Blue Jackets coming this week, as well as the Vegas Golden Knights. And we will catch up on that Miles Wood minutes poll that I missed out on from last week's episode. And, of course, we will end the show with bold predictions and just a quick heads up. We do have another listener ding to hand out today. So that is pretty neat. Let's drop the puck on episode 99. Jackie, I'm going to start with you. So the Avs, let's go recent. They couldn't hold on to their third period lead yet again. Are you concerned with that trend? Does it feel a little bit like human nature? That's a lot of what I heard last night from some of the other local pundits, that it's hard to play for nothing. I don't know if I agree with that. How do you feel about it?
Well, you have to give me a question that I have a long-winded answer on right off the bat. So I apologize to everybody. I'll first say this, that I do agree there's a bit of human nature there. They're locked into playing Dallas most likely. They're locked into that 3 seed most likely. Mm-hmm. We've seen it before. We saw it in 2022. They had a really bad couple of weeks. It's kind of the doldrums of the season. Everyone's just ready to get to the playoffs. So I get it. I do. I don't think they're going to be up to 110% intensity every single game.
Right.
That said, I think there are a few things to be concerned about, not necessarily because of last night, but I think they manifested in the result last night. So the two things is, and I mentioned this on last week's show, and I'll keep mentioning it, they have difficulty generating offense at times, which sounds crazy. They have all this firepower, etc., but it keeps coming up time and time again in the games they struggle in. If a team can play them well defensively, they're trying to win with 1 or 2 goals on the board, and 5-on-5 scoring has been a concern. The power play is streaky. I think the power play is going to always be streaky, but you got to look at 5-on-5 and what's happening there. So in the last 10 games, which forward leads the Avs in 5-on-5 points? No cheating. I want to hear answers.
Which forward leads the Avs in 5-on-5? His name is Jonathan Drouin.
No.
I was just saying, my gut says Logan O'Connor.
No. That's an interesting guess, but no.
It's not Lehkonen because he hasn't scored in 8 games. Well, it could be Lehkonen because he's not on the power play anymore, so he's not on power play 1. Is it Nichushkin?
No.
No, he's struggling. Parker
Netches.
Kelly?
What's your answer, Ezra? Sorry.
Parker Kelly?
No. Okay, so I'll give you the answer. It's Ross Colton, Mister
Oh.
that had 2 points or 2 assists. I'm sorry, for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
He has 5-on-5 points. Makar and Taze, I believe, have 5 each as well. And then you go on down the list. Nishushkin has 3, Duran has 3, Netches has 2, and Lehkonen has 1.
Oh boy.
So this is kind of what I'm getting at with the scoring, that it is prone to these kind of stretches. And like I mentioned before, I'm not going to get all the way into it, but they were riding a really high shooting percentage, these players, especially Lehkonen. Everyone's like, what's wrong with Lehkonen? And I know part of it is like he's making some uncharacteristic mistakes. Okay, that's a different story. But when Lehkonen is shooting 23% still at 5-on-5, that's why he's not scoring, folks.
Totally. Well, and I think a big part of that is, like I said, him not being on the power play anymore with Nichushkin coming back. I know that obviously you're talking about 5v5 points, but I do think his confidence from scoring on the power play can bleed into his confidence at 5-on-5. And I think right now he's just kind of bashing his head against the wall, Lehkonen, that is, even with the top line. You know what I mean? So
And then just one other thing I want to touch on, and this is like my overall theme. I know that we don't want to hear about it for, hours and hours on end here, but you have a team that just recently came together. It's not just the rentals, so that they run 13 players through the team this year that didn't even go to training camp. They don't have that foundation. They don't have the chemistry. These are some of the problems you're going to run into when you have a team that was made on the fly, that it's hard to trust each other. It's hard to have that connection and chemistry and, not playing for yourself, but playing for your brother and all this and that. Like, They have great intentions, I'm sure, but it's something like you said a few weeks ago. You learn more about the team in a loss. And those are the lessons I think you need to take from it. It's not just one game or a couple drop games, but you have to look at the why, and you have to look at, is these things that I've been saying are going to be a big concern, are they cropping back up? Are you saying, this team doesn't collapse in the third period usually? Now we've seen it 3 times since the big change.
Right.
So maybe it's something we need to think about.
I mean, to your credit, I think it can be explained by that last point, which is the familiarity, the comfortability. And I do think that the human element plays a little bit of a factor as well with the predetermined outcome in terms of the playoff matchup. I think it's only natural to kind of let off the gas, especially when you're beating a team 2-0 with about 10 minutes left in the third period. But the thing about that, and what you talked about early on in your answer there, was kind of these low scoring games and how the Avs struggle to score. My brother asked me about, what it was with the St. Louis game, if the Avs really just got goalied. And I was just kind of more like, well, no, there's teams that know how to play the Avalanche a very specific way, that are willing to sit on their heels and wait for the Avalanche to make mistakes, and they can rely on good goaltending when the Avs get through and get the cracks. But what happens is the Avs don't get ahead, and when the Avs don't get ahead to start, those teams are allowed to stay in those systems and sit back and stay sitting back, where, the Blues will get in trouble in the playoffs if they try to play that style, because inevitably they will be losing, and you can't play from behind that way as successfully. Now, jumping forward to the Calgary game, totally different story. The Avs let their foot off the gas, and it was frustrating. We saw a really weird group of guys go out for the face-off, or for the shootout, which we'll talk about, Jackie, because I know how much you love to talk about who took the shootout shots, because it's just a fun thing. Also noticed Bednar didn't watch again last night. But Ezra, we're talking a lot about the comebacks against and all of this stuff, and kind of third period leads. But I've got some true statistics for you to really, I put this out on our Mile High Minute, which is the Avs are now 31-1-2 when leading going into the third period. So it feels worse because of recency bias. But I will agree, Jackie, the 3 came after the big moves. So that might be a legitimate concern. However, let's talk about the month of March, where they only lost 2 games in regulation and then 2 games in subsequent shootouts. Ezra, is that really what we should be talking about? Is the torrid success that the Avalanche had in the month of March, which was already a condensed schedule?
I think so. I mean, man, they've been so good. Yes, the last 2 games were a bit of a letdown, but also if you really like dive into it, they played like their B game, maybe a C game if you really want to be frustrated with the third period last night, but their B game in both of those games and came away on the verge of a victory. You know, if they dial it up to an A, which they generally do, I think they win those games. St. Louis specifically is maybe a little different, but that Calgary game, they saw a team that was barely playing them for 2 periods and were like, okay, I guess we can take it easy. And they shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have done that. You can't take anyone easy in the NHL. But they were beating the Calgary Flames to death by playing a B-level game. And then they were like, let's see if we can keep doing this with a C or maybe even a D. And they couldn't, because you can't do that. But truly, like, that's not, I'm not worried about the Calgary game. It sucked.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, yeah,
but like overall for the month, they've been incredible. I'm looking at just the schedule on ESPN, and it's all greens, baby. It's all wins. There's a couple of losses, yes, but like, man, they've been so good. I don't have the record for March. Just I could count it up, but I don't want to do that. It's very, very good. They won, I think they won 6 games in a row for a stretch, and then lost 1, won 2, lost 1, won 4, and lost 2. So yeah, the lost 2 are the last ones we're thinking about.
Right.
But that's some incredible production that I think is really the norm for this team, rather than last night or the St. Louis game.
Yeah, I agree. Like in the middle of that, there was that game last week against the Kings, which you're our California kid. Tell us what you saw there. That felt like the most complete game we've seen this Colorado Avalanche play this season.
Yeah, and that was the on paper most difficult, most important opponent in the stretch of the last 2 weeks, and they geared up for that game. They showed up. They played excellent. Keaton Middleton was very good, which, you know, like there's a conversation to be had about the defense right now that I don't know that we want to have because we love Eric Johnson so much, but I just think if you look at that game and you say, oh my God, that's what the Avs can do at full cylinder, that shouldn't be your expectation game in and game out for the regular season, but that should be your expectation for most playoff games, that they're going to play that well. Los Angeles did have some chances, but Mackenzie Blackwood stood tall and stopped them. And overall, the defensive effort in that game was phenomenal. And I don't mean the blue liners. I mean the team defense. It was incredible. Los Angeles got a few chances, like I said, but for the most part, Colorado shut them down, and that's a good team.
Yeah, that and to your point about the defense, man, the centermen were doing such a good job in transition, and Bednar even talked about it in the press in his interview with Altitude the day after. He talked about how defense really is about transitions, because if you can get the puck out of your zone quicker, then there's no defense really to be played. You're now on offense. That's how it works. And so I think there's some real wisdom in that, and I think the way that management addressed the depth up the middle specifically reflects that being a philosophy that goes organization wide. Evan, I'm curious, you've been so patient, so kind, and so quiet over there. How are you feeling about the games this week? Any specific takeaways? What about that St. Louis game? Do you feel like we got goalied? Hit me with it.
Oh man, that St. Louis game was, I don't want to say tragic, but it was more so just like, it was just a clash of, I guess, like 2 very different styles of play, right? I think we all know what St. Louis is capable of. They have Jim Montgomery. Again, I patted myself on the back last week for saying that he got him in that playoff race. I'll say the same. I don't know if St. Louis has won since they played us on Saturday, but I mean, that was their 9th straight win at St. Louis. Yeah. They have stormed into this entire playoff conversation. So that game was, I think, always going to be the most difficult just because of the run that St. Louis was on. And I mean, that not only includes, of course, you know, Jim Montgomery behind the bench, but that includes Jordan Binnington, who has just been on an absolute tear since winning the 4 Nations with Canada in February. So I guess you could say yes. It was a little bit of a goaliness. You got goalied, but St. Louis also just did a good job in front of him. Like
Yeah.
they really just like got in the way, made things hard, and that's how you beat the Avalanche. We've seen that time and time again. They have to find a way to break through that, and I mean they had chances to in that game. Don't get me wrong, but it just didn't.
Boy, did they!
Didn't happen.
McKinnon passed away from a wide open net. I was fortunate enough to be at the game, and I've never in my life been a big proponent of the shoot, but my God, was I in that moment. Like McKinnon just wanted to make that one extra Halifax facts, baby, and it didn't work. Just put that puppy back in the twine. It would have been a 2-2 game. And I have a little bit of a bone to pick with my section concierge at the game. She was saying at the top of the tunnel, I really hope they don't go to overtime. And I just don't know if I agree with that. I don't know how I feel, but yeah, that was an interesting outcome, an interesting game. I think you're right to say like they know how to play the Avs in a way that can at least give them a chance. But I dare you, St. Louis, to play the Avs in a best-of-7 and take that approach in a 7-game series because it won't work. It took 3 really bad penalty calls, a Bennington performance on his head for you to beat the Avs by a goal. So let's not get too excited. Sure, you're won 9 in a row, but guess what? You're still not in the playoffs. Okay, I'm done making fun of St. Louis.
I want to speak on that game really quick if you don't
go
mind.
ahead. Not at all.
The underlying stats really paint the same picture you just did. They had possession 60% of the time. They outpossessed St. Louis completely at all strengths. They outchanced them. They generally like had the puck, right? And if you look at just the graph of the Corsi, it's just a steady climb. In the Avalanche direction, which is good. But St. Louis broke even at high danger chances, and actually the expected goals, St. Louis controlled 60% of that, which just speaks to, yes, Colorado had the puck a lot, but they weren't being very dangerous with it. And I think they tried to correct that and did correct that for 2 periods in Calgary by getting the defense more active and getting more people in front of the net, which is 2 things that are a hallmark of Colorado's game that they didn't really do effectively in St. Louis. I think, I don't know what happened. And then in the 3rd period, they stopped being tenacious towards the front of the net. And that's, that's just a key, I think, going forward.
I couldn't agree with you more. And you know what? I hope that what we saw from Mr. Landeskog getting a little power play 1 action in practice the other day is an indicator that he's ready and willing to get back into that net front presence in the event that he does make a comeback. We'll get there in a little bit. But Jackie, one of the things that's also a staple of Colorado hockey right now is the name Makar. As young Taylor Makar has inked an entry-level deal with the Avalanche, a 1-year deal. I put out a poll today that was kind of like, what do you expect for Mr. Taylor Makar? Do you think he'll be a mainstay in the AHL? Do you think he'll be a potential call-up? Yada, yada, yada. Jackie, what is your expectation, ceiling, floor? And then we'll kind of all go around in a circle, see if we all agree or kind of where we're at. Jackie, you start.
I'm probably still at call-up stage. I mean, they could use anyone they want on the 4th line. I mean, that's been true for a decade. Like, if you really want to put somebody on the 4th line, you can use pretty much anybody they've had in the AHL. It doesn't take, like, extra special powers to make it on an NHL 4th line. It's mostly about opportunity and desire. So, if the Avs truly have big plans for him, could he be a 4th liner on the team? Sure. But it'll be interesting to see how much of an exception he's going to be just because of his bloodline.
Yeah.
So I do know that he's going to get opportunity because of that. But like I said, am I willing to think that they're going to commit to him as a regular player? No, I'm not ready to go there yet. As far as talent level, I think he's in the mix of like the other guys they've signed, Chase Bradley, Jason Poland. I mean, I'm not super high on those guys anyway. Do I believe that Makar, because of genetics, and it is interesting, you watch him, there are things that remind you of Kale. It's kind of crazy. But he's 24 years old. He beat up on a bunch of kids in college hockey. He plays very physical. We'll see if that continues against men.
Yeah.
Um,
He's big enough, but I hear
he
you.
is big. He is a lot different than Kale. Like I said, there's some uncanny things that remind you of Kale, which is kind of cool. But he's a completely different player. I've seen him live. I've seen him at development camps and stuff, and it's like good for him that he changed programs and had a really good year. But I'm not sold on the talent level, not just because I want to be negative, because I've watched him. Like, I just don't know that the puck game is there. Is it enough to be a fourth liner in the NHL? Like I said, I think that's more up to organizational desire than anything. It could happen if they really, really want it to happen. But I think he's probably going to be on the call-up track where he's in the AHL. You see him for 5 to 10 games.
Okay.
Kind of what the preferred signees get, but I don't know that he's going to get the super, the above and beyond. The Avs have never done it package. I don't think he's quite on that tier.
Gotcha. Well, one of the funny things that I got on my socials in response to the Taylor McCarr signing was, quote, "How come he looks older than Kale?" And then the responses to that were even funnier. And someone said, "My 6-year-old looks older than Kale." But Evan,
well, also because people probably don't realize how old Taylor is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But Evan, what are your thoughts on the signing? Do you agree with Jackie in terms of your expectation?
Yeah, I honestly kind of feel like Jackie nailed it. I think because she and I have watched him at development camp, and I mean, I remember last summer. Last summer was definitely his best summer. Taking part in those camps. The speed was there, the skating was there. I wonder where he learned that from. And yeah, I think the puck skills weren't necessarily there. I think he definitely got some at Maine this year, 100%. But yeah, it's a matter of whether or not it'll transfer over into the AHL and NHL. With that being said, though, I feel like his ceiling could be a little bit higher. I'm thinking like Logan O'Connor light, and I guess what I mean by that is not like obviously it couldn't be like Logan O'Connor where Logan could just slot in like 1 through 4 wherever the heck Bednar needs him. But more so around the similar style of like he can skate fast, he could probably pop up and score every once in a while, but otherwise he's going to play the gritty game. He's going to get down and do what needs to be done. And I think that not only having his brother in the locker room will help with that, but Bednar will really utilize that, I would imagine anyway. Not saying that that's going to happen like immediately going into 25-26, because I don't think that's going to happen. You're going to have to see how he does in this amateur tryout with the Eagles, whether he plays tomorrow to start or is on Friday up in Loveland. We'll see, but that's what I think the aspiration could be. I don't know though what that will look. I don't know if that'll actually like happen though, I guess, if that makes sense. So
I'm also looking to see how much he plays in Loveland, because that's also not a guarantee, especially this year.
Well,
they'll play him some, but I don't know that he's. It'll be interesting. Will he be an everyday guy? Is he going to get any power play time, anything, or is he just going to kind of get the token few minutes? Like that's also going to kind of indicate their attitude towards him as well.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that to the table, because I'm also interested in that, because a part of why he was so successful in Maine this season was because he found a place that had a better role for him. And so it's like when you go to an AHL team, the role is kind of not a role. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna have to find a completely different role for the Eagles, based on just him coming in an amateur tryout this way. But Ezra, how do you feel? Ezra, I'm sorry, I hate to throw darts at you, but your Badgers didn't make the tournament this year. But the Pios are in the Frozen Four. And Maine obviously lost to Penn State in that first round at a whopping 5-1. What did you see from Taylor McCarr in this season that really has earned him this contract?
Well, first of all, I'll say shout out to the Badgers women's hockey team that won the championship and is an incredible program.
Hell yeah.
But yes, the men's hockey not so hot lately. Haven't been good since Joe Pavelski. But I will say for Taylor, I don't watch a whole lot of college hockey, but I've watched some McCarr highlights, and I've watched I've read some things he said, some interviews, and I watched him at training camp, and I think what's encouraging about this season overall for him is just that he was able to, assert some dominance as an older player. If he wasn't able to, I think you think, okay, well then there's no ceiling for this guy. Like, he doesn't have the ability to rise beyond, an AHL kind of level. But because he was able to dominate, you can say, okay, maybe he'll find a way to translate that against men. It's a big maybe though. He's not a guy with a super high pedigree coming out of in the draft. He was a 7th round pick, if I remember correctly. He's not a guy who has really high expectations outside just the name. And then there's always, a psychological factor of he's playing in his superstar brother's shadow to an extent, and that can either really work or really not work for people, I think. So I really don't think there's a middle ground. He's either going to be a guy who thrives off that and is like, great, I'm here to learn from my brother, I'm here to learn from, follow in his footsteps as best I can, or somebody who kind of feels a little bit of a pressure that they don't want from that. And there's no way to know what that's going to be until it happens. So it's going to be really interesting. I think one thing that encourages me about his potential to become a Logan O'Connor type, like Evan said, which I do agree with, is, because he doesn't come in with super high expectations, he's not going to have to compare himself to Cale in that way. So that's good, because he's not going to compare to Cale in that way. Sorry.
I totally agree with you. I think we should maybe reevaluate if there's even a CBA for AHL players. I don't know if there is, but there should maybe be one now, because I bet you that Makar Eagles jersey is going to get bought more than any Eagles jersey ever. And I feel like maybe Taylor should get a little bit of a cut. Hell, maybe Cale should get a little bit of a cut of that jersey as well. But yeah, I'm with you guys all there. I think, if like Ezra, you mentioned the draft pedigree part. If he hits as a 7th round pick, I mean, giving him a 1-year entry level deal to come play for the Eagles, I think at a 7th rounder, to me, is a successful pick as long as that tryout goes well. And next year he does seem to find himself a role on that team. So I'm excited. Anytime you can add another Makar to the organization, I think it's probably a good move. We joked that when they drafted him back then, that they only did it because Cale was in the middle of a negotiation. Well, they didn't have to give him this 1-year deal because Cale signed. So, but then again, maybe it sweetens it up in the future if they can get him down for even more. Who knows? But something that you all talked about last week, which I thought was absolutely hilarious, and I was sad that I didn't get to get in on it, but was the Miles Wood minutes poll. And boy, how has that plot thickened since your conversation. And folks, while I have your attention, there's about 400 of you listening and watching live. Thank you so much for tuning in. Head on over to milehighhockey.com and give us a follow on your preferred socials. Check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that jazz. But the Miles Wood minutes poll. So I have some pretty funny guesses here, and Brennan's not here, and I was going to come up with a different buzzer, but let's just use the bold prediction buzzer. Brennan said that Miles Wood was going to play under 5 minutes for the rest of the season. That got blown out of the water literally the next game. I think he played 9 minutes and change in the next game. So Brennan was wrong. Jackie, you're still good with under 30. Evan, are you all right? I think you're all right with under 20.
Under 20.
Yeah. Ezra, you might be pretty close. With
I think
the
I'm still
18.
good.
I think you're still good. And then vaguely, I think you are not good anymore, Mr. Vaguely Sober, with the 13 minutes. So vaguely, there's your buzzer. Don't worry, we'll come around to you later on. But what I thought was funny about this was none of you guys considered the fact that there's nothing really to play for. And as you saw from the 3 guys that got rolled out in the shootout, things get a little wonky this time of year. And it might be that Miles Wood plays every game for the rest of the regular season just to see if we can bring something back. But Ezra, of the surviving few, you are of the lowest minutes. Are you confident at all, or how are you feeling?
Oh no, I'm not going to win. He'll play at least one more game, and that'll do it. I think he played 7:45 and 8:30 something. So I think I'm already down to like 1 minute left. So
Yeah.
barring an injury, which I absolutely do not want, I can't possibly be right. I mean, I guess he could never play again, but that also
Yeah.
would be shocking. So yeah, that's okay. It was a fun idea. I
Yeah.
was really surprised he was the first option with Kiviranta's injury, because I think of Jimmy Vesey as more of a Kiviranta style player than Wood, so that shocked me. But they gave him a chance to earn that third line spot, and well, he didn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't terrible.
I will say he's like a freaking wrecking ball out there. Like he's definitely not trying to be missed. But Jackie, you had a pretty the highest of the spoken minutes. I'm gonna say I have to be exactly right on the 40 minutes, meaning it could be 40 minutes and however many times after, but it has to be on the 40-minute mark for me to be right, since I wasn't here and I got to think about it longer than you guys all did. So that's my rule for me. But Jackie, you had him under 30 minutes. You feeling good? You feeling kind of shaky?
I don't think any of us are going to win. I think, yeah, it didn't help that he played 2 games right immediately. It doesn't surprise me he was next up. I mean, the $10 million he has left on his contract is is a good reason why he was next up.
Yeah.
I mean, he just has, as much as he's in Bednar's doghouse, he still has a lot more credit built up than VC. And so it's kind of like a vet thing. Like, if you start playing just VC instead of him, that might get a little ugly in the locker room. You know what I mean? So,
well, you talked about McDonald in your bold prediction. Are you frustrated that he wasn't an option?
No, because no, God, no. He needs to not play forward. Like,
yeah,
that is one of the stupidest things. And of all of the
I know
ones
it's happened, but I know
he has actually played forward, like as an actual professional. But no, I'm definitely not sad about that. No. We don't need enough injuries to get him back up. He definitely deserves it with the season he's having in Loveland, but it's not like it's a surprise. He's 32 years old. They brought him back to do exactly what he's doing in Loveland. And, you know, would a game be a nice reward? I know Brennan would love to see it. I'd love to see it because it would get him closer to 50. But we also don't need that many guys to go down, so it's fine. As far as Wood going forward, I mean, Kiviranta coming back will help our poll a little bit, but it's true. I've only got about 1 more game left of room. I even thought 30, like I said, I thought I was kind of on the low end, and then everyone went lower than me, and I'm like, you know, stuff happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, I when you guys started talking about, because I was able to listen, I wasn't able to participate, but when you guys started talking about this, I was just like, oh man, like who I immediately went to what you talked about, Jackie. Was like, who else are you going to put out there when you're paying this guy to play hockey, what you're paying him to play hockey? And if it's worth, quote unquote, there's nothing to play for, well, you better get your money's worth in the meantime. And so I guess I see that. Plus, you maybe are mitigating some injuries for other guys who might be more likely call-ups, giving Kiviranta a little bit of a break. But Evan, you had it at about under 20 minutes. You're good for now, but you're kind of dancing around where Ezra is. It's pretty much looking like if he plays 1 more game, you're also going to get your buzzer. But tell me, like, what are you hoping for Miles Wood here? Is there even anything to prove with these last few games? Enough of a track, I guess, for him to prove something, to earn himself more ice time potentially in the playoffs?
That's a good question, because I mean, even if you asked people at the start of this year, I would even imagine saying, man, I miss Yoel Kiviranta in the lineup. Like that's kind of
still
telling,
not
right?
That.
But I guess in terms of Miles Wood, like he probably has 1 more game until my buzzer, so maybe just play 1 more game.
Yeah.
Like Curtis McDermott special where you play 3 minutes and that's it. But no, I think like for him, like I don't really know if there is much to prove. I mean, I think he kind of showed last year at least what he's capable of. I mean, I kind of thinking back, reminiscing of like he scored that overtime winner game 1 against Dallas. That he showed his true tenacity, fighting for the puck, fighting off defenders, using his speed to get to the front of the net and poking home. And that was like oh my gosh, that's a great way to start this series.
Mhm.
We won't talk the end result, but
Ow.
it's like so I don't know if there is much to prove. It's nice to see him, I guess, having battled, I guess, the back injuries, the back issues that he's having and having to deal with them for the rest of his career. It's obviously something the Avalanche are going to have to manage going forward. So maybe if they want to push him in these last, I think, like 7 games, I guess they could. So they could, I guess, prepare not only for the postseason to see what maybe he's capable of, but then also continuing on with, I think, the 4 years left that he has on his deal.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that's really about it. I don't know, at least not in the sense of this season anyway. I don't think that there's much for him to prove, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, barring like a hat trick, I don't think there's anything he can like do to move the needle, and even that I think would just be looked at as like an anomaly and not something that you can take to the bank. But Jackie, something you can take to the bank is the Avalanche will have 4 games between this show and our next one, to include another game against the Blues. What are you hoping to see from the Avalanche as a whole in those last 7 games?
I guess this is a hard question for me because I don't think there's anything this team's going to do that's going to change my mind
Sure.
on what I think. I mean, I do expect them to bounce back. I think they're going to win in St. Louis. I think they're going to win in Chicago, even though those games are really like Chicago's in such YOLO territory right now. It's real dangerous. But I think the Avs are going to bounce back. I think they're going to beat Chicago. They're going to beat St. Louis. Yeah, that Columbus game is real interesting because they're another one that's scratching and clawing for everything. I expect the Avs are pretty much the same. Like they could drop that one just because Columbus needs it real bad. I mean, to be honest, I'd like to see Columbus in the playoffs, so connect the dots there. But like I think they're going to do the same. I think they're going to win most of their games. I think they're going to put up a lot of shots, and I don't know what they could do to answer the questions I have. Like if they win them all, are my questions answered? I would say no. So it's probably not the answer you want, but I expect them to just kind of do the same, which is mostly good.
Yeah.
But it's not going to answer the questions that I have for this team.
I think that's a fair way to put it. I don't think there's a lot to be proven here. I just think that maybe there's a way to approach these games that we might prefer. Ezra, do you have a preferred approach for this team? And I know you got to go, so before you do, please hit us with your bold prediction.
Yeah, I mean, I think my preferred approach for the team would be to just try to get their systems right. Not really care too much about. I don't really care too much about wins and losses at this point. They're going to outlast the Wild for the 3 seed, and they're not going to catch Dallas. So that's not a concern for me. But the third period collapses are. I think that's something that I don't want to see any more of. And as long as they are tuning up their special teams and giving an effort that matches their opponent at the minimum, because that was kind of what the third period felt like. Calgary really outworked Colorado in a way that that desperation causes, and Calgary has that desperation, but Colorado's going to need to be able to be that desperate in the playoffs. So let's play that desperate now. I do think my expectations are high, but what Jackie said is also true. They can't answer any of these questions in the regular season. They have to do it in the playoffs. So gear up for those playoffs. And on that note, my prediction is going to surround special teams because I think that they give up one one goal while shorthanded. So one power play goal between the next. I think there's 3 games before our next show.
Yeah,
and I'll say this also: it's not going to beat to Chicago. Yeah, that's my prediction.
All right.
And I know I got a buzz coming when you get to him later, so I'll just apologize.
Here you go. I'll just give it to you as you leave. Boom.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody. Go Avs.
Bye, Ezra. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Ezra. Unfortunately, we had to give him a buzzer because he said that Sam Olinsky would score the same number of points as the entire fourth line during the homestand. He didn't have one, so that didn't happen. But that's okay. Ezra, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you and your time, my friend. So let's get back to what the matter at hand was, which is kind of the games that are to come this week. Evan, what is your hope and approach? And are you really keen on that Blues game as kind of a little dose of revenge, possibly because the Blues just might miss the playoffs altogether? We might not have any other opportunities.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm kind of surprised you didn't touch more on the Blues rematch, because that's a game that I think that I would imagine out of this entire week would frustrate the Avs the most. And getting like as I said, getting the systems right in that game in particular, because St. Louis will be scrapping for every point, right? They're going to probably play a similar style than like they did, this Saturday, and that's something that the Avalanche need to be ready for, because honestly, Dallas kind of play a similar way too. They just probably have a lot more firepower than St. Louis does, to be able to go down the other end and score and match the Avalanche's style of play, but Dallas can also lock it down. So you got to be wary for that as well. But even more, I guess, on an individualistic basis, like I want to see players like really starting to get it going here. We mentioned Lehkonen hasn't scored in a while. I look at Nichushkin, even McKinnon's had some off nights here and there. If even just like a point or two, just some consistency and really getting everybody rolling, heading into these last 2 weeks into the playoffs will be really, really key. And this week's a good week for it, I think, because, I mean, like we said, Chicago. I really like what Jackie said. They're just in YOLO right now. That's a good one. And yeah, like Columbus and St. Louis are both fighting for playoff spots, and so they'll bring their A game. So why not try it now? Why not get it going now?
Yep,
I
agree with you.
For me personally, I think maybe the most interesting thing about down the stretch is, can McKinnon get the Art Ross? Can he finish with the most points? Because he might need to do that to get the Hart this year. It's hard to win it back to back, so
it's also hard to win it when Ovi might break the all-time goals record. So that'll be another interesting.
Yeah, no, I don't know if they'd give it to Ovi, but I guess that's a different conversation.
Capitals are also the best team in the league right now too, so it's like, I don't know, man, you might.
And they just brought in a top prospect. I mean, what life that is over there. Must be nice.
Yeah.
So I think, and then Makar also, if he can stay within, hit 30 goals, which he should, stay in the lead for points for defensemen. So I think if there's anything to really key in on, it's maybe that, and it really doesn't matter for the team itself or like an indicator that they can go all the way. But for me, I think that's just maybe the most interesting or fun reason to kind of follow the team.
That's a good point
for this portion.
Yeah, because Kale has 7 games to get 2 goals. Man, that goal last night. Whew.
Yeah, there was. I will say that was I called it not safe for work. That was
that's a good way
vintage Kale there, that's for sure.
Well, and Taser had himself a nice little move in the open ice as well that he didn't cash in on, but I was like, whoa, these defenders are ready to go. And like the other thing we didn't talk about from last night was I think Kale and Nathan McKinnon had some pretty big reverse hits. Kale's even ended up with Coleman punching him in the face after the whistle because of it. Don't know how it felt about that, but it was interesting to see, and I am in agreement with you. Like the fun part of what's happening now is how will these season-long awards sort out, and how will the Avalanche, in particular McKinnon and Makar, finish up their campaign in the regular season in terms of those regular season awards. Evan, when you look at the calendar, what game are you eyeing that you think that Cale Makar will indeed get 30 goals? Do you think it'll be the next one, maybe the one after? How do you feel this week?
I got to look at the schedule here because this week, I don't see this week.
There's 3 games until left this week. So the next game after that'll be next week will be Tuesday against the Knights.
He maybe gets it this week.
Yeah.
I say that now and watch he pulls like a hat trick tomorrow.
I was gonna say,
I was gonna say either this week or I think one of those 2 home games against Vegas or Vancouver. I'd like if it was at home because then you get a little celebration, I guess, out of it.
Yeah.
Hopefully not a premature one like McKinnon's 1000, but
Yeah.
but that would be nice to see that at home in
Mhm.
one of those last 2 home games. But yeah, I also wouldn't be surprised if I see it this week, just because of Chicago's YOLO status and
Yeah.
just going at whatever, and
Yeah.
McCarr taking advantage of it.
Well, we all know that Kale loves to play against Chicago too. And when I say play, I mean like do well against Chicago. So maybe you're right. Maybe you're keying on to something. I'm with you though. It'd be cool if he did it against Vegas so he could do it in Colorado with the home fans. And when we do our 100th episode, I'm going to send you guys a goodie basket. And just like McKinnon's gold 1,000 point stick, it'll be delivered by Gabe Landeskog. So just be sure that you have your Ring camera on and that you know he's coming. So just look forward to that. You might get a stick yourself, just a little hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But that's for episode 100, which will come out next week, folks. Let's put a bow on the games to come, and we'll get into our bold predictions now from last week. Ezra, you already got your X on the way out the door for your Sam Malinsky prediction. Jackie, you said Jacob McDonald would play for the Avs. Unfortunately, I got to buzz you for that one.
That's okay. I don't root for injuries, so that's okay.
I hear you. Evan, you said that the Avs would sweep the homestand. Unfortunately, they were unable to do that. And I wasn't here, so just give me a buzzer. And Brandon had the Eagles sweeping Ontario. The rain and
they got swept.
They got swept. Yeah,
that's a no.
That's a hard no. But let us play that track, and we will get our bold predictions this week. Oh, I forgot.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I call that bold talk.
Vaguely commented on this video at 4:46 in the morning and said, "Ding," because he got a ding for correctly predicting that the Eagles would clinch a playoff berth on March 22nd. So congratulations, Mr. Vaguely Sober, Miss Vaguely
Hey, we
Sober.
love that. We love listener dings, so that's
beautiful.
Awesome. And thanks for following up too.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with another listener, Mr. Peterman, with a bold prediction, vibing off his bros signing Cale Makar hat-trick. Evan,
well, he stole mine, so that's great. Now I got to think of another one. So you go first, Jackie.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Jackie.
Well, you guys have kind of like danced around it a little bit, but I'm going to say Cale gets 30 against Chicago. I think that's bold enough.
Yeah.
And because you're right. Cale likes Chicago, and maybe he's rolling a little bit. So I'll say he gets to 30 in the next game.
Love it. I love it. Okay. 30 in the next game for Cale Makar for Jackie. Evan, did I give you enough time?
Yeah, I got one. It'll kind of go off of what I'm looking for this week when I would like to see at least some guys step up individually and kind of get the ball rolling. I've kind of touched on the fact that Lehkonen hasn't appeared much. I think we see that this week. I think he gets 3 points this week. Is that bold enough, we think?
I think so.
Yeah,
considering he hasn't had a goal in 9 games and all that jazz, I'd say it's pretty bold. Let's even go look at his stat line real quick to just see how bold you are being. But I'm with you, man. Anything to give the guys who might be kind of in a lull right now just a little boost of confidence heading into the playoffs. Yeah, he's pointless in his last 4 games. So 3 in the next 3 or 4 is definitely bold. I will give you a ding if you are so correct on that prediction. And that just leaves me, I will say, in the spirit of me not liking the St. Louis Blues, I will say that the Colorado Avalanche chase Jordan Binnington in a 4-0 defeat of the St. Louis Blues. And it might be 3-0 in the first period. So we're going to go 4-0 Avs versus Blues.
We're getting specific, huh? Specific scores and everything.
And if by some miracle the Blues make the playoffs, and then by some even bigger miracle, the Avs play them in a Western Conference final, I implore us to bring water bottles to the stadium, and just kind of chill there with our water bottles in the stands, and have a good time with that.
They are on track to make it.
I think St. Louis is going to make it. Like they're only
Yeah. I
one
think
point
they
behind
are,
the
yeah.
Wild.
I think they are. I think I saw somebody with a great tweet, which was the objects in the mirror are closer than they appear, and it was the Minnesota Wild looking in the mirror and seeing the St. Louis Blues. And I'm being intentionally facetious because, like I said, I don't like that team.
Yeah.
It's sports hate. Don't worry, it's nothing real like what some of your fans like to do to Nazem Kadri, but it's sports hate for me. So I think it's all right. So that's my bold prediction: 4-0 Avs in a Blues revenge game. Unless I didn't touch on something, is there something the two of you want to talk about?
There is there is
Go ahead.
one topic, but
Let's do it.
you can go ahead.
No. Jackie, you start, and then Evan, I'm going to hit you with something real quick in the chat.
Okay. I just want to talk about the shootout last night. I think we didn't quite get to that just because I guess I'm the shootout queen. I'm the only one that likes the shootout. So I'm actually going to defend Bednar and the Avs a little bit for his shootout choices. I mentioned on this podcast maybe a couple weeks ago that Colton and Nichushkin, though in smaller sample sizes, had really good percentages. So when Bednar said last night they looked at the analytics, I mean, it wasn't deep analytics. It probably was just shooting percentage. But I can't fault him for doing what I suggested. Mm-hmm. So even though it didn't work out, the thinking there was good. And then Coyle, because he scored against Montreal, didn't he? So I get going back to that well. It doesn't surprise me it didn't work, but I get doing it. I mean, I probably would have picked Nelson instead of Coyle if we wanted to kind of go for a repeat performance. I think the interesting thing is just not using McKinnon.
Yeah, I'll say.
He hasn't been good at it lately, and I don't think he was very good last night. And maybe it was a little bit of a message, like that kind of wasn't good enough, Nate. So yeah, if there's anything, it was maybe just they didn't use him. But I felt way more okay with it than like the public. Like I said, I found the reasons defensible. And it's nice when the coach actually listens to my suggestion, because I'm sure he heard it straight from me. It was like, okay,
he watches the show. Yeah.
We need all the shootout percentages. So that's how I felt.
Hey,
about
Jackie and I are on the same wavelength. That's what I was going to bring up was the shootout stuff.
Oh, okay.
How intriguing that was. Of course, it's East Coast.
It was
out here.
It was like, why did they use Kale? They almost never use Kale. Like that.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah, they don't usually use Kale, but of course, it happens 11:30 at night. I have an 8 a.m. class. I was like, God dang it! Why are we doing this? Why
Evan's rubbing his eyes.
Possible.
Is that
Charlie
Cole? Well, Netchas
I know. I'm like,
twice
is that
in his
that
career in the shootout? So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like when you have, I guess it's nice to have all these different options, but also like, do you need to use all those options? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, especially when you think about like Jared Bednar's philosophy. He's about like veteran status. Like if you're doing what you're doing, you're more likely than not going to get the opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the shootout, it doesn't really seem like that. It's just, it feels kind of like, all right, you go, and that's kind of it. And he puts his head down because he doesn't watch. So,
well, I mean, they don't have Mikko anymore, so
that's true. They don't have Mikko.
It kind of mixes it up.
They don't have Mikko. Wasn't Kadri a shootout star too, or am I being mistaken?
I think so. I mean, he's pretty good in that setting, I'd say. I'm so glad the shootout's not in the playoffs. Thank the Lord. Whew,
I'm surprised they didn't go with Drouin, I guess. I mean, if anyone, I mean, why not? He kind of deserves a chance. I will say I'm super disappointed in all the years that Jack Johnson was on the team. They never used him once.
Right. Dang it.
He has like 40% and not over like a 2-game or 3 sample size. Like it was legitimately over like 20 or more attempts.
That's awesome.
The Jack Johnson was 40%. So I wanted to see a Jack Johnson shootout attempt, and I didn't get that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the philosophy around shootouts is just so interesting, and like you said, Ada, I'm happy they're not in the playoffs because I wouldn't want them in the playoffs. That would not only take the energy out of a playoff series, I think, but like It also doesn't really favor the Avalanche. So
No, certainly not. Yeah.
yeah. And I guess
They
if
don't
you look
get
on the
to 'em
flip
a
side
lot.
of that,
I
they
think
don't. They
part of it
don't. That's true.
is they don't participate in them a lot, so there is that novelty factor, at least for me. But it also for them, don't really win them, but they're not in them a lot either.
Yeah.
That's the one
And-
thing I don't like about international soccer is that they let shootouts dictate the outcome of giant games.
I find that
So-
interesting because fans of soccer are perfectly okay with that. And I'm not saying
Mhm.
that's wrong. I just think it's an interesting
I think it's because the
philosophy
shootout
that they're
itself
okay
is-
with it.
I think because the shootout itself is more difficult in soccer, like as a shooter, and if you're a really good goaltender, like you can steal a game in that scenario. Whereas like it's kind of like skills competition and more fluky in hockey. Maybe that's what the difference is, Evan. I saw you point.
as I
You
say,
are a goalie,
I
right?
am the soccer guy here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my sport. I can't skate, but I can at least run around and kick a ball. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I like you said, I'm a soccer goalie, so like getting the opportunity to save a penalty kick, probably one of the greatest feelings out there, as a goalie. And I don't know, I guess it's at least with the beautiful game, I guess that's just kind of how it's always been.
Yeah.
And so people have just kind of been like, whatever.
Well, you
And
could
they're
be like
very,
Peterman here. He lost his state soccer championship
uh,
in PKs, so that's brutal.
yeah. So like, it's just kind of how it is, I guess. And soccer is more. I mean, it took soccer freaking like 2 centuries to get instant replay. You know,
Will it
and
take 2
they
more
hate it,
centuries
so,
to have an actual clock that makes sense?
Yeah.
Don't ask me about that part. I will say though, if we're talking shootouts, because in soccer specifically, we're getting off track here.
That's fine.
The old MLS shootouts are actually kind of like hockey shootouts, where you have the attacker starting, I don't know, halfway to half field, and then they dribble up to the goalie and they try and go around the goalie. I do like those. That at least makes it a little more skill based, I would say, rather than, I guess, luck based, if you want to say it that way, from just a penalty kick from 12 yards away.
Right.
Yeah, because if you're a goalie, you just kind of have to guess.
Yeah.
Either way. You can't decide. You can't read in time to see
He's going
where
glove,
the ball
mama.
is going. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. But anyway, so getting back on track, on the flip end of hockey shootouts specifically, back to the goaltender talk. It's not really, I would say, either a fault of like Blackwood or Wedgwood, but this is probably the part where I miss Georgiev the most, because he was very good in the shootout.
He was.
He was very, very good. I will never forget him beating the Rangers first time back at Madison Square Garden, and the cell. Yeah, that's. I don't know what it was in the shootouts. Maybe it might just be a mentality thing for goaltenders, because that's what it is for, I guess, both soccer and hockey. I would imagine is that you got to be in the right mind space. I mean, I would say that Wedgwood and Blackwood are in the right mindset, but I don't know. I'm just not really sure. I'm not sure. I'm not a hockey goaltender, but
Yeah,
that could be part of it, but it's definitely not the main reason.
well,
I think Blackwood's somebody posted a stat. I think Blackwood's save percentage in the shootout is like top 10 worst in NHL history. So pretty much don't count on any of that.
Exactly. It's the opposite of Georgiev. Yeah.
But like you said, that's okay. They're not in them a lot. It is what it is. They're not going to live and die by 1 or 2 points. So I'm not that concerned about it. I did kind of want to go back to something we talked about last week, if we're just kind of looking for the little loose ends to wrap up. You weren't here, but you did have the question you left for me about, is there a goalie controversy at all?
Right.
Are you concerned about Blackwood, etc.? And I said no, because they're married to him. So so if there's any controversy, it's not really going to last long. But I do find it interesting that Wedgwood played last night, because they have the back-to-back coming up, so it's not like he's going to get rusty. He's going to play this week regardless. So it's interesting that coming off a loss, they went to Wedgwood. I don't think it means like, ooh, Blackwood's in the doghouse. He's not the starter. He definitely still is. But just saying, I found it interesting because we might be tending more towards an actual split around, and maybe it's just to gear up for the playoffs. But since it was a topic that we've discussed. I just think it was kind of interesting they went with him.
Well, I mean, and he was 50 minutes into a shutout last night, and had he saw that through, or even maybe just limited it to a 1-goal thing, had his team in front of him kind of helped him out in that regard and not took their foot off the gas. I mean, the conversation, like you said, Jackie, I don't think it's about, oh, who's the starter in Colorado. No, I think the conversation is more about, well, how long really is Blackwood's leash, knowing that Scott Wedgwood is apparently a very capable goalie, one that can steal a game. I mean, like I said, up until that 10-minute mark or so, up until the fans started doing the wave, Wedgwood had a shutout roll. Sorry, Connor McGahey. I don't like the wave either. My bad.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm on the side. I see the whole people are just having fun, let people have fun, but it kind of indicates like you're not into the game. And
what do you know? And the team does the same exact thing.
yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
winning itself should be fun. So
Yep.
if you're winning and then you're doing the wave, then there is kind of a disconnect there.
Yeah. Well, somebody said the guy who started it was wearing a suit, and that tells you everything you need to know.
But
What are we,
I do
Toronto?
think,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I do think Wedgwood has played better than Blackwood recently.
Yeah.
So it is kind of an interesting thing to at least pay attention to.
Well, I think we'll end the show on that. And Evan, I want you to have a little bit of a moment here to give a pitch on kind of something, a little project that you've been working on. You have the floor, my friend.
I know. Finally, I can announce this.
Yeah.
So yesterday, I was proud to announce that I've joined Mile High Sports, the prominent Denver magazine. I guess not Denver, but local Colorado magazine, covering the worldwide of sports in the Colorado metro area. And I've joined them to, I guess, transform their Avalanche coverage as the site manager of a new project called Hockey Mountain High, like Rocky Mountain High. If you didn't
Rocky
get
Mountain High. Can I do a
the memo
jingle for
already.
you guys? Can I do a
Maybe,
jingle
I
for
don't
you
know.
guys? Come on.
I'll talk to you about that one maybe afterwards. But yeah, we've been working on the back end of that for a while now, and I'm really looking forward to getting that thing up and going. Now is a great time for it, with the playoffs rolling around and Ohio's in the Frozen Four, the Eagles, heading into the playoffs as at least right now anyway, the number 1 team in the Pacific Division. So we get some good times coming up over there. So be sure to check us out, hockeymountainhigh.com. And I think we're like, our socials are all over the place, but it's like hockey, some variation of Hockey Mountain High Colorado, over on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, all the fun
that
things.
jazz.
But yeah, that's what Brennan has also been helping me out with. So myself, Brennan, another CSU alum, Savvy Rafkin, and we hope to add a couple more people down the line. And yeah, it's really all I got. That's my pitch.
Wonderful.
Check it out.
Well, the more Avs coverage that gets brought to the table, the better. And of course, when it's attached to a friendly face like yours, Evan, I'm all about it. So good luck with that endeavor. And we will be here at the Mile High Hockey Lab to steal you any chance we can get in the meantime. So that is awesome. Happy for you. Proud of you. Jackie, also happy for you and proud of you. Excited about what we're doing over here at Mile High Hockey and at the Mile High Hockey Lab. We have about 625 live viewers right now. Thank you, folks, very much for tuning in. I did have a comment over here that somebody said that I didn't bring up, and it was way earlier in the show. And Evan, look away. Liverpool FC versus the world. Is there any chance we don't play Dallas in round 1? I think mathematically there might be a chance still, but it's a pretty tiny mathematical
I'd say
possibility.
honestly the best chance at this point, because I don't see the Avs just going on like a major like drop 5 out of their last 7. I don't think that's going to happen. So I wouldn't be looking that direction. I would look at Dallas could catch Winnipeg.
Yeah,
I think that's the most likely at this point that's going to change it. It's possible Dallas passes Winnipeg, and then that would mean that the Avs would play Winnipeg. I really think that's truly the only kind of realistic scenario. Like I said, I'm not going to say that because the Avs dropping in the wild card. I don't think they're going to do that. So that's really the only one. So
Yeah.
kind of watch that. I do think Dallas and Winnipeg play each other before the end.
It sounds right.
So that could be a interesting one to watch if
Well,
you truly care about the matchup.
yeah, they both have 8 games left, and one of which will be against each other. So yeah, that's going to be a little hunt there. Stars have won 6 in a row. What would that do to the? I mean, we're running over time now, but it's kind of interesting. What would that do to your outlook for the Avalanche going into the playoffs? Would that make you feel more confident or less confident?
I mean, I think Winnipeg's pretty good. It'd probably be about the same for me. I mean, I kind of think they have to play them both, so just kind of flip flop it in order. I almost feel like the Avs in a way set up better to sort of slay the dragon, beat the Miko Duchesne, blah
Mhm.
blah blah, kind of like triumph the first round and then find some trouble against Winnipeg. So I almost think for the Avs that not a great thing if they play Winnipeg right off the bat because I think Winnipeg's really good.
Yeah,
So
plus they're going to want revenge in the playoffs. Plus, Miro
yeah,
Heiskanen might miss the first round, so you might want to catch Dallas in that window. Would you agree, Evan?
I didn't even think about that part, but yeah, I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm kind of with Jackie where like feel kind of similar. I guess if we play either or.
yeah, it's not
But,
like a huge difference. It's not like all of a sudden they play St.
Yeah.
Louis or something. Like it's gonna be tough either way.
It honestly sounds crazy that I'm like 55-45 on this. Like I might want to play Dallas first round
Mm-hmm.
instead of Winnipeg, but I don't know.
I'm with Jackie. I want Dallas right off the rip. I'm with you guys. Like, let's
Yeah.
get this over with. Let's beat Dallas and have like a night's worth of making fun of them, and then we'll move on to beating Winnipeg. Because that's what it's about in the playoffs, and you're trying to win a cup, baby. You can't spend too much time making fun of the team you just beat. But I'm excited. The Avs are gearing up. 7 games left in the regular season until the playoffs. We at the Mile High Hockey Lab and at Mile High Hockey will have some seriously cool content as the playoffs roll up. We'll do our position previews. We will look into every single part of the series and tell you where the Avs may or may not have an advantage and all that fun stuff. I also have been putting out some polls, so be on the lookout for a new pollster article on Sunday, as well as Ezra giving you another Friday Feels. And Jackie, of course, will be dishing out the round tables and everything
I've
else.
somehow found prospects to write about. It's kind of a miracle. I did write about the prospects in the tournament.
I was going to say, hey, at the deadline, you said you were done writing about.
Doesn't mean I watched anything. But
Oh,
hey,
that's
it makes
funny.
good content. So
Well, folks, yeah.
at least I found some words. So there you go.
Well, folks, there you have it. No matter what the Avalanche do, you still can't get rid of some of us, including Jackie, when they trade away her favorite prospects. We will still be
Or
here.
all.
Yeah. We will still be here at the Mile High Hockey Lab to give you some Avs coverage. To the 622 of you watching us live, thank you so much for tuning in. Head on over to the website, give us a follow, get over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and add our full catalog. And guess what? Next time we go live, it will be for episode 100. And that means we have some very special things in store for all of you visitors. So until next time, I'm Adrian Hernandez with Jackie K, Evan Liu, and earlier we had Mr. Ezra Parter. Go Avs.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.